There are a lot of great teams this March Madness tournament that garnered coveted top seeds, but one of these teams, according to tournament history and a Kenpom data, will serve you poorly if you have them advancing far in your bracket. Something that Kenpom brought to light at the beginning of the 2023 March Madness tournament, teams that enter the March Madness tournament with a 1 or number 2 seed that fell outside of the preseason AP top 25 poll, they do not make the Final Four, most importantly. And another great point is they average fewer than 2 wins per game. So these teams that get a 1 or 2 seed but were not in the preseason AP top 25 poll rarely make it out of that first weekend. Before I go on and describe which teams this applies to, don't forget to subscribe to the video. We've got a ton of great March Madness content out right now. The most important, I think, being our Kenpom prediction video, using 20 years of Kenpom stats to predict some March Madness trends. Take a look at that one. Looking at these teams with the number 1 and number 2 seed performance, 12 times has a team been outside of the AP top 25 poll in the preseason and gotten a 1 seed in that tournament. The most recent being Purdue. We can see what happened to them. They lost in the first round. Look no further than the 2018 Virginia team that had the same bill where they were outside of the top 25 in the preseason, got a 1 seed, and then also lost in the first round. So you can see that at least recently it hasn't been going well for them. The average amount of wins per tournament is 1.83, and then you got even more scenarios of this happening with preseason unranked teams that get a 2 seed. The most recent, again, being last year with Marquette, who lost in the second round to Michigan State. That team only won 1 game, and 2 seeds are averaging 1.5 wins in the tournament when they've gotten the preseason unranked distinction. So you see in these teams, in these charts, there certainly are 1 seeds and 2 seeds that make it to the Elite Eight, but it's few and far between, and most importantly, none of them have made the Final Four. Now you can take a look at this preseason AP top 25 poll. You're going to see a lot of good teams on here. You're going to see all the 1 seeds on here, but the 1 seed or the 1 team that you'll notice is missing, I'll save you the suspense. It is Iowa State, the current reigning Big 12 champions that embarrassed Houston in that championship game. It's a big deal because I think a lot of people are really high in Iowa State after winning that conference tournament, but the numbers don't lie, the stats don't lie. That being outside of the preseason AP top 25 is almost a kiss of death for these teams in March Madness if you're getting the 1 or 2 seed. Again, let's look closely at this 2 seed performance here, and I mentioned 1.5 wins averaging in the tournament. That means that if Iowa State plays to the average team, they don't even make it out of the first weekend. They don't make it to the Sweet 16. Now, you can see here that 5 of the 24 teams have made it to the Elite Eight, and another 4 of them made it to the Sweet 16. So it's certainly possible for them to make a run, but they would be on the wrong side of history if they did that, and they would be the first team to ever make the Final Four with their distinction here. I don't think a ton of people are picking Iowa State to make the Final Four, given how tough that region is in the March Madness bracket, but it would be incredibly foolish to advance them to the Final Four given these recent trends. Let's look at their region here. Iowa State being the 2 seed. They've got South Dakota State in the first round. Now, I don't think many people are picking South Dakota State to win this game, but it wouldn't be the first time the 15 seed won in the opening weekend. Happened just last year with Arizona, where a lot of people were high on them. Happens seemingly every other year, if not more frequently, that you see a pretty wild upset that no one predicted and brackets get busted. This game right here is the prime suspect. And let's say Iowa State does win. They don't have a walk in the park game against either Washington State or Drake. And then even looking further ahead, if they went up against Illinois or BYU, I know Iowa State has a top defense in the country, but those are 2 great offensive teams, especially beyond the 3-point line for BYU, where if those guys get hot, it could be a tough game for Iowa State, even given their great defense. But look, I like Iowa State a lot, and I always love defense in March Madness, but the stats simply do not lie. Iowa State, outside of the preseason AP poll, in the top 2 seed, Just last year, you saw firsthand what could happen. Nobody believed that Purdue could lose their first game against FDU, and they did. I had Michigan State beating Marquette, but I still think a lot of people were high on them. It's a different story for Marquette this year, being a little more battle tested, but Iowa State is kind of taking that role of new kids on the block, 2 seed without that preseason ranking. Something really to look out for, and I would advise you strongly to not put them in the Final Four in this region. I wouldn't even go so far to make them go to the Elite Eight against a team like UConn or Auburn. As far as I would have them go is making to the Sweet 16 and being eliminated by a team like BYU or Illinois. But I definitely have Iowa State on upset alert this tournament. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you take that to heart, and I hope it at least makes you think twice about picking them. Obviously, it's your bracket, and do what you will, but the stats don't lie, and it looks like Iowa State's in a prime situation to get upset and bust your bracket.